thank you everyone for being here today. We have a very special talk for you. My name is Frank Liu. I am the founder of VR Clubs of America. What we are is an organization to be able to teach students how to program for VR using AI. Our ethos is where it's student-led but community-built. But it would be hypocritical for me to say that it's student-led and for me to give the talk. So what we have is some wonderful students from Herbert Young Scholar Academy to give this wonderful talk to you. They've been working really hard to make this an exceptional talk, so I hope you enjoy. Give them a round of applause.
Hello everyone, my name is Robert Nagar
and my name is Omkar. We're seniors at Eric Herbert Young Scholar Academy.
And today I want to take you on a journey about the next chapter in human history, virtual frontiers, where mixed reality meets artificial intelligence. So, how many of us remembers the virtual reality hype in 2019 to 2021? Yeah, that's a good bit of us. And how many of us remembers what life was like?
COVID.
Yeah.
Good times.
So, I'm sure a lot of us are thinking about COVID-19 pandemic. During this time, none of us could go outside and see our friends and do a bunch of things that we took advantage of all the time. So this is what really sparked artificial intelligence, because it was a new way for us to explore and get outside without actually leaving our house, because our living room became boring. And this really introduced a lot of additional uses for virtual reality, because it started with finding remote social connection, and then it was applied to jobs and to learning. So I could have a job interview in virtual reality and get on the job experience without actually working with expensive technology that I could break, for example. So now we're moving on to today's hype cycle, artificial intelligence. I'm sure I don't need to ask how many of us have heard of artificial intelligence. Let me tell you a little bit about AI. So while AI was always a dream, something exciting in the future, what really kick-started it was ChatGPT's release in 2022. And everyone was able to see how exciting and magical this technology was, and it's not a thing for the future, it's happening now. So before ChatGPT, we'd have to go onto the internet, go onto Reddit or Stack Overflow for so long to find a coding solution that could have taken us 2 paragraphs to understand. And that's where ChatGPT came in and made learning magical, and it made it easy. So from then, new AI tools have been coming out so often. It feels like they're coming out every day with AI tools that turn image to text and text to image. As whatever you can think of, almost everything can be done with an artificial intelligence within the next decade. So about these 2 technologies, they don't inherently seem related, but virtual reality is a spatial innovation. So it changes how we deal with space, while artificial intelligence is a computational innovation. It changes computing power and how our relationship with time is built. Essentially what that means is, with virtual reality, not only can I go to a different place, but the objects around me can be perceived differently. Like the tables around us can be used for a machine or as a monster if you're in a video game with an augmented reality headset. Similarly, with artificial intelligence, I can get information instantly, right? And before there wasn't that. I put in an image to an AI and I get something back. So what that means is the workflow is dramatically changed. Goals become more solution oriented than process oriented, and so essentially the intersection of these, if one is a spatial innovation and one is a computational innovation, we can have much more powerful artificial intelligence with virtual reality. The way AI works is it takes in some data, it learns from it, right? And a lot of the times, if we want to simulate the real world around us, we take an AI and we take video feed or sensory data from the world around us, but we can come into roadblocks such as getting permissions to record something like the Capitol building. With virtual reality, we can simulate the Capitol building in situations that might never exist, like earthquakes and hurricanes, and have AI learn about natural disasters from the real world simulated in virtual reality. AI becomes a lot more powerful, and we have multimodal AI that can function as a general purpose robot. And so it's more of the things of the dreams of the future that we imagine rather than what we see around today.
Right. So that's all very exciting, and it's very cutting edge. There's a lot of possibilities for like high tech labs in business. But for you personally, how could this affect you? So for example, how many of us travel for vacation or work or anything else? Yeah, so oftentimes when you're traveling, it might be difficult, especially if you haven't been there before, to come up with an itinerary of things to do or find things that excite you. But with some of the possibilities advanced by augmented reality and AI, you might be able to, for example, see markers for where to go, like in real life, without necessarily having to like look down at your phone and that kind of stuff. And you could just follow arrows through the streets and figure out what looks interesting to you. You could also use AI, for example, to based on what you like, it could recommend places to go or things to do. And really, this kind of marriage could revolutionize the way that people travel. So you could also, even if you're looking to make a more permanent move instead of vacationing, let's say that you're trying to tour at home, you could tour it from the comfort of where you currently are in VR with an AI kind of talking you through the features of the home and all of its possibilities. Or if you want to go to the grocery store, you could, for example, we've already got virtual shopping services, but you could, for example, pick things out from the comfort of your own home and then have them delivered to you as if you were really in the grocery store.
Can we
Yes?
ask questions?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, it was suggested that I come up with where can I meet single people if I land in Atlanta today? I'm a matchmaker. Could AI help with that? And how?
AI.
Could you repeat the questions? No, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the question was, could AI potentially help with matchmaking and matching up single people?
Not just matching, really finding where could I go where I could meet awesome single people when I just landed at 5 o'clock on a Friday night in Atlanta.
Right. So like where could you go? What are the possibilities for like where you could find other single people? So I think AI could definitely help with that. If it's able to kind of look at your preferences, it could like suggest different spots to you. For example, if you're more into like the clubs and bars, it could suggest places to go based on that and like based on your price range. Or if you're more into like museums and quieter spots, it could suggest those as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
But from what we saw in a previous demonstration on real estate, I think a week or two ago, the suggestions that came back were so generic, so general that they were
Not there yet.
They're
How do you
useless. Like this is how you should approach it.
Yeah, I
So
just didn't
how
know
do
if I
you deal
could
with
spend
it?
a lot of money on an app and with AI could beat me to it.
I'm working on an app which can plan experiences for you, which can definitely help what you want.
What?
I'm working on an app which can plan experiences for you using AI.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to help you be a little bit more specific, one thing that you could probably do is you can, let's say we have an app, right? And that app tracks the location data of the phone. And so maybe a lot of people have downloaded this app, and so a lot of people go at a high frequency to a particular restaurant or a club. That can identify the different types of popular spots that are out there, and then based off of that information, based off of personal preferences, maybe with the calendar stuff.
You
it
mean
can
by
be able to-
geo-tracking people?
Geo-tracking, or taking some of the information from those phones and uploading it into the database to be able to do some algorithm calculations for a little bit more specific answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For example, if you want
Yeah, and again, a lot of these are like potential possibilities that are being worked on right now. You know, it's definitely an evolving area. So obviously, some of them have already been brought up. But like, you know, there are a lot of concerns with how this technology can develop, especially since right now it's a few companies kind of spearheading it. So there's a lot of ethical concerns. For example, with both VR and AI. They could collect data. For example, there's the potential that if you buy like a VR headset or something with an inbuilt camera, they could record what's available on the camera and send that data to companies. AI, if you like submit like personal details and information, it could also send that data to companies. It even has the potential to like manipulate people based on the answers it gives. Or if you're using it for something creative, like as some kind of supplement, it could potentially be plagiarized. But with the right kind of oversight and a lot of people being aware of these issues, it's entirely possible to have like a good overall experience with these technologies where these ethical concerns are addressed. So kind of now I'm going to talk about what we've done as a case study into the use of VR and AI, specifically in the classroom, but in general for learning, which I'm sure is a very important topic to a lot of people. So VR Clubs of America is our overall organization. It kind of started with, in the summer of before my junior year, I was mentoring under Dr. Liu, and we wanted to create something interesting in VR that could just help students. So very, very general, very broad idea. And we hit upon the idea of creating VR science experiments. And so under Dr. Liu's supervision, I created 3 different experiments in the course of 2 months with very little prior experience. And so once the school year started, we thought, if I could do that with just so little prior experience, no like prior knowledge of how this works, why couldn't students kind of take an active role in their own education and create these experiences for themselves? And that's kind of how VR Club got started. Ram, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into it?
Yeah, so I came into VR Club initially interested in AI, and Omkar talked to me, and Omkar and Frank talked to me about how those two can be connected, and I can leverage AI to help with virtual reality club, and I've been doing that. So I've added.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, just talk a little.
Okay, I'll talk a bit louder or hold it
Oh,
closer.
just hold it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so why VR Clubs of America? Why is it important? The main problem that we're trying to solve is targeting the physical inequities within Arizona high schools. I'm from Seattle, and so growing up in Seattle, even low-income schools had science experiments that were available. And then, now I've moved to Arizona for my PhD, and I went to visit different high schools, and what I see, there's a lot of high schools without science labs, or a lot of high schools without the resources to be able to develop. And there's a lot of teachers who want to give this to these high schoolers, but there's not a lot of resources available. And what's really impactful with virtual reality is that pretty much with a couple headsets, with a couple computers, you can make anything for the students, any sort of experience, take them anywhere, and that is really being able to bridge the gap to make it such a valuable and important thing for these students.
If I can add to that, it's not just high schoolers that are low income that don't have labs sometimes. Even mine in Omkar is
Yeah,
school.
we go to a pretty great school, but we don't really have regular lab setup. You know, we have to go to the university for a lot of our labs, and sometimes they're booked, and we don't necessarily have direct access. So, you know, a lot of what we're trying to do is we're trying to address kind of the lack of access of a lot of high schoolers to labs, and also simultaneously address the safety issue. You know, for example, if you're doing a lot of things with, for example, fire, or if you're dealing with biological substances, there's a lot of safety precautions that need to be in place, and that might take a lot of time away from actually completing the lesson. Whereas in VR, you know, obviously it's important to keep these in mind for when you do them in real life, but it's a lot easier to set up in VR. And that's kind of our vision in the long term, is to give everyone access to these kinds of science experiments and other learning experiences as well. So here's a couple of examples. I already mentioned I created a few science experiments over the summer. So here's some examples. After the presentation, we can show them off a little bit more if you guys are interested. My colleague Ram also created a few interesting things of his own involving AI.
So this is an example of how AI was able to be directly plugged into a virtual reality experience. This is an artificial intelligence NPC that I found on GitHub with my mentor Frank, and I was able to put it together and integrate it in Omkar science experiments. So as opposed to going to a teacher who's really busy and has will have a lot of questions, you can just ask this AI NPC any question you want regarding the science experiment, and you'll get an answer back instantly.
Right, and it's kind of meant to be like a supplement, and not necessarily take over the entire role of the teacher, but it can definitely help out and, you know, spare some of the teacher's attention if something more important comes up. So what we've done is, with these kind of basic ideas, we've developed a full VR curriculum. Right now it's already being used in 3 different high schools. But our main thing that we wanted to address is that, you know, obviously we've talked a lot about how this is all cutting edge technology, but the issue is a lot of educators and students are kind of scared of it. It's like, oh, this is so complicated, you know, what can we, how do we even start learning this? So we kind of wanted to, like, lower the barrier of entry. Yeah, yes? No, okay. And we wanted to lower the barrier of entry, and we wanted to make it so that this was just much more accessible to get into. So part of what we've done is we've created a YouTube channel with a full set of video lessons in English and Spanish. So it's a lot more accessible to students and to teachers who are designing their own, you know, lesson plans and ideas for learning this kind of material. So again, our ultimate goal is accessibility. You know, make this as easy as possible for everyone to get into. So we've already launched in our school, River Young Scholars Academy. We've launched in ASU Prep South. And our curriculum is aligned to the Arizona State standards, so that means it's pretty much plug and play in most of the schools across the state. So we eventually plan to go national as well. So, you know, obviously this is all like very exciting, but, you know, what kind of bearing does it have? We're going to use ourselves as examples, but, you know, this kind of learning could apply to anyone who kind of learns a lot through our program or is interested to take up computer science and related fields. So for me personally, I'm interested in going into game design, and in addition to all the leadership skills and the great planning skills that VR Club has taught me, it's allowed me to get a lot more hands-on and personal in designing experiences, and especially in figuring out how humans, like for example the kids in the VR Club, kind of interface with those experiences. So it's definitely made me focus a lot more on the human in terms of design, and I'm just really excited to continue learning with VR Club.
So virtual reality club really helped me a lot, because before I was kind of in it for the money, I suppose. I saw AI and I was really excited about it. It's a new technology, it's exciting, it's magical, it's revolutionary. But doing something like this, where it actually impacts people, really put a whole nother aspect of it. Okay, what do I want to use AI for? How can I use it in, like, what does it do? I don't want to build something that does nothing. So I'm now really excited about using artificial intelligence to make things easier for people, maybe working in the disability scene. And I was only able to figure this out after seeing something like virtual reality and how that can impact people directly. And that got me really excited about it.
Right. So, we've talked a lot about ourselves and, what kind of we've done, but now, because this presentation is also about you, what kind of things can you get out of this? So we've got a couple of interesting AI-based tools and resources here that can help you out in general, but especially if you're involved in education and creation and all of these kinds of endeavors. We've got a few tools to check out. We'll be doing live demos right after the presentation. So first of all, Magic School AI. It's a great tool. It's approved in most schools, unlike ChatGPT. So students and teachers can use it, and it just takes a lot of the load off of education, like all the boring, tedious make work parts of it. So you can use it to generate simple homework sheets, lesson plans, activity ideas, all of that. So you can spend more time actually teaching in the classroom and interacting with the students, and the students can spend more time interacting with each other and the teachers. Ram, if you want to.
And this is NVIDIA AI, so it has many AI tools that, like a virtual human or image to text that are really plug and play into a project. We'll show you a demo after. It can be used in anywhere from education to a coding project that you have. The variety with NVIDIA AI is really large.
Right. So now we've kind of talked a lot about these tools, but now we're gonna invite you. So first of all, if you're interested, no matter what career you have, if you interact with technology in any way, which is I'd say most people, we'd really love to have you come speak at our school at HYSA or at another VR club. So if you're interested, please contact us. We'd love to hear you, and our students would love to hear about your career experiences. And if you want to kind of be a little more proactive and get this kind of learning out here, not just for kids but also for adults as well, you can kind of start your own VR club. And again, please contact us. We'd love to hear about your experience. If you have any questions, just in general, we'd love to hear from you about your experiences with technology and what you're interested in. So here's a QR code if you want to contact Frank. Yeah. So
Got a question. Have you think about VR can help disabled people?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been seeing is within hospitals, a lot of times people are stuck in hospice, and looking at the hospital every single day with the beeps and the nurses, it's really depressing, really sad. What I've seen is people have created VR experiences that allow the people who are stuck inside to be able to experience in a different way, to really engage and have an opportunity. With other aspects, there's been different sorts of trainings, and then even with tele-operated robotics, where we have this combination where people can operate robots as a service for the work. So there's a lot of different great areas that it's been growing in.
I'm asking more like, let's say people are blind, deaf, mobility problem, they lost an arm, they can't walk. Do you think VR can help them in daily life?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different aspects, and this is also a growing research field as well. There's been some research work done with phantom limbs to help them. Let's say I have frostbite and I lose a foot, right? There's therapies within VR that's been developed in different universities to help them get over that kind of fear of heights. There's been some games with those. There's also been some research works, but I'm not super familiar with, within human-computer interaction, where they explore limited visibility VR and those aspects as well. So it is a growing field. Any other questions?
what game engine did you guys build in?
So primarily the students use Unity, and that's kind of the more popular thing that I've been seeing. The main reason why we chose Unity is because it's lighter weight. With Unreal as a game engine with Epic installer, it's about like 20-30 gigabytes, and especially with the constraints of a lot of school computers, they're very affordable, and maybe with the affordability, the specs aren't quite equipped to handle things like Unreal.
Are you guys thinking of designing more for like headsets or for smartphones for like VR, AR experiences?
So primarily these are for headsets. You don't even need a headset for making a VR club. Within Unity, there is a VR simulator, and so like as long as you have Unity on the device, students are able to learn and create.
What kind of content have you created until now? Is it all computer science related or is something other?
Yeah, so maybe you can share about some of the stuff the high school students have made.
Sure. So some of the students in our VR club have already they've been working on things. We've already got a few things. For example, one of our students, again, very little prior experience, but he managed to create an entire flight simulator while he was in VR club, and that won the school science fair. So again, that's not necessarily directly related to computer science, besides obviously the time spent coding and setting it up, but it's definitely one great application of where this could go for students.
Have you guys gauged what the difference is in the experience with the virtual reality science experiments versus real in person? Like you're doing the bread with the mold, and how the student, what their experience was with the VR versus the real life.
Yeah, so the reason why we chose these experiments, believe it or not, a lot of those experiences that you saw Omkar build, they don't actually have it in the schools these days. I was talking to different educators. Even at ASU, I went to their chemistry labs. They don't even have Bunsen burners. It's really surprising, but they don't have it. So like a lot of the science experiments that you guys have grown up with, that I've grown up with, they don't do. And so that's why there is such a pressing need to be able to have students like Omkar and Ram really create. And ultimately what's really important is they'll inspire the younger students with them and really have that type of culture of learning with all these different constraints within the school systems.
Chemistry class doesn't have regular
Those decisions are above my pay grade, but maybe safety and the gas lining and all that, I'm not sure.
My reason for my question is I know and I understand that in the medical education and med student world, there's a lot of simulation happening and being developed, and how they compare and contrast that to real life and hands-on. If you're going into cardiology, okay, we're talking about cardiology. You're simulating how you're going to make a decision and go in there. Has anybody kind of gauged what the differences are between the VR and the AI with real life?
Yeah, so generally, real world experiences are really awesome. Part of my research work during my PhD was actually creating haptic devices that let you feel the virtual world. So if you want to check out some of the videos, they're quite neat. But there is also something that you can overlay that can make it a little even more special with the virtual reality. So for example, in the real world, you can't really see all the atoms or the human physiology. I guess you can dissect a formaldehyde person, but then within a VR experience, you can peel back the layers, you can have a lot more richness to that. You can add, there's some gloves called haptic gloves that cost $80,000 that I've played with during my research. It will simulate the stopping of your hands, little air pumps. So definitely a growing field as well in terms of recreating the virtual world.
We actually, at my health researchers, we did a VR study that showed an avatar-based education was the eager over knowledge retention. And we presented the data on the weekend, but one of the things that came up in the conference was, in the medical field, how do you get reimbursement for
That's not necessarily my background, but it would be, that's why programs like this is so important to be able to give that type of background. The students that grow up today who become policymakers tomorrow, they'll have that type of experience to be able to inform those decisions. It's challenging when you don't have those decisions, background to make those decisions. But thank you for sharing.
I
Yeah.
try to figure myself in many years, right? I love what you guys are doing to take it from VR, AR, and then other things, but I'm a very hands-on person. Whereas you might not look more into it. So how do you bridge the gap between a very hands-on person, not liking AI, versus a hands-on person, versus a non-hands-on person liking AI? Because we're looking at a huge variation of student population. So this is particularly catered to people who are already computer savvy, right?
No, it
Or
actually isn't. We have middle
How
schoolers.
do you bridge that mind gap? Like, I'll be opposed to doing it.
Right.
But I'm not, but I'm saying there are some students who are like, not doing it, it's too much for us. If this is the future of education 10 years from now, what will you guys do, or what will be your approach to bringing every single individual student towards this?
Right. So the main focus that we're trying to really focus on is on the creation aspect rather than the experience aspect. So I'm sure both of these students have crammed for tests to really study something, and they've probably forgotten it. I've done that too, right? But if you really create something, you have to be able to understand the concepts behind it. You have to figure out how to put it together, and that type of knowledge retention sticks a lot more. And then on the experience side of it is a growing research field where we do have the hands-on aspect. Maybe this is a way to a gateway to open funding to be able to provide more opportunities. Let's say, oh, now that they've seen this experience, now they can experience in real life. One thing that this can also do from the experience side of things is giving a little bit more exposure. Sometimes we have, so for example, there are students from small schools that maybe don't have a science lab that is as robust, and then they go into ASU and they just feel so overwhelmed, right? And so this can be a stepping stone towards something that is within the real world to be able to bring that. So it's not necessarily the replacement, but it can be a way to make it a little bit less scary.
So we incorporate a lot of VR in our programs too. And one of the biggest ways we utilize it is like practice it 10 times in a virtual simulation, like in Tinkercad, for example, and then get out the circuits and start building. So that way you're not going through thousands of dollars in circuits because people have never done it before.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest ways that it's going to be really effective in education going forward is as a huge, huge cost saver. Because if you're running a $5,000 science experiment that day, like if you can simulate it 10 times in VR first, you have experienced a lot of different options, right? You've experienced a lot of things. And then if you bring AI into it, and the AI simulates it another 1,000,000 times overnight, then like you get through so many solutions so quickly that's one of the biggest ways that we've found it super effective for us, is we're not blowing through cash on real world applications for simulating it first and making sure that like in our robotics lab, they haven't, they remembered to put in the resistor because 4 times in the robotics lab they forgot the resistor and they blew out their circuit, they blew out something, right? And so I think just that's one of the ways that this is going to be very effective, so I love what you guys are doing.
I kind of want to address her good question. We're at a point where if the school system decided to teach their teachers how to use AI, they could do, it's called EPI for every student, which means that if you have certain types and ways of learning, that can be addressed. So that if you're a student that is not performing, you get to help in some way with the use of AI to be able to actually meet those standards instead of falling back. And you can do that. I know it because I've done it. You can do that for every student. They usually do that for special needs students, but now you can do it for any of them. You can actually track them. You can also develop programming specifically for them. So So I think if we just get school systems to recognize that AI is a tool and it's not something to find cheaters or whatever. It is a great teaching tool, and we should be using it like that in every school.
Believe me, like the being an educator, I was the first one to say, hey, ChatGPT things. That's just for reason.
All right.
But a lot of districts shut it down.
Right, and one of the big things is the approach of teaching how to use it. One of the things that I really focus on is having a question-based approach and getting the information that we want. Like one of the exercises I teach them is like, how do you ask questions in class, right? It's through asking these questions to be able to refine, because they need to have the right language skills, they need to have the reading, writing comprehension to be able to get what they want. And I feel like a lot of educators aren't taught this question-based approach, where it's kind of it's a different way to teach, and not everyone is on the same page for that. I saw a hand back there.
My main question I want to ask is that when you look at Snapchat,
Have we looked into the Snapchat development program? We haven't yet, but that is definitely something for the future. Yeah.
okay. And I love what you guys are doing. You're advancing technology for younger adults, right? You want them to see what it's all about, get experience before they get to high school. Before they're in high school, they have accessibility to see this. But I believe your demographics are Gen Z, which is Snapchat. With the new AR goggles that are being launched through Snapchat, there could be a lot of opportunities.
So we got about one more question.
My question is, so you're talking about bringing these programs, or the AR technology that you're having in these schools that are underprivileged, you don't have the resources to provide these labs and everything. So my question is, how do you overcome the fact of how expensive AR technology is right now and everything, integrating it into that, and then on top of that, the issue of I mean, it might save some time with lesson plans and everything, but then teaching the teachers and the students how to utilize this technology, does that make what they're doing more complicated and take more time? And does that actually save money in the long run versus doing this labs physically, and the cost benefit of just having the actual lab? It seems like it comes down to a resources thing.
Right, and that's a really important thing to consider. An actual physical science lab is to the tune of $500,000, about $250,000 to $500,000, just to start to build the infrastructure, the building, all of that, right? For a VR club, most high schools or middle schools are one-to-one schools where every student has a computer. A lot of the high schools or middle schools do have some type of library where they do have the computers available. And they don't even need headsets, because within Unity you can simulate a VR headset. So just from a cost perspective, it takes about like $2 or $3 grand to start up, and that's cheaper than robotics. Like a lot of robotics, like some of the kits that come in is at least $5 grand. The competition costs, the transportation costs. There's a lot of robotics is great. I love robotics, but there's also a lot of invisible costs within different STEM programs as well. So I hope that answers your question. All right. With that said, we'll go on to move on towards the demos, just to show you guys some of the cool stuff with Magic School AI and NVIDIA Explorer. So.
Sure. Yeah, so just to kind of start off, I'll be demonstrating some of the possibilities of Magic School AI. I mean, I will say as a disclaimer, I know we have some educators in the audience. I'm not an expert in terms of education, but yeah. But what I can do is show you some of the possibilities that maybe you have some ideas to take it further. So I'm just gonna open this up real quick. So let's say that I want to sign in for whatever, right? So now what I can do is I can, just as an example, let's say that I want to create a simple lesson plan, right? So normally this would take a lot of time, and I'll just do something which I have some experience with, which is like 9th grade history. So let's say, and you can add more detail here as well. And you can add like different things based on what they're learning. So let's say, and again, if you have like certain educational standards you need to align to, or like content you absolutely have to cover, you can add that as well. So let's say, for example, I generate this idea. It can create a pretty decent outline that maybe you can fill in or add detail to, or even use some of the other tools such as like homework generators and that kind of thing. So like, you know, I've just put in these few simple sentences in here, and it's already got this detailed lesson plan about like what are the key points to cover, some ways to open the lesson, you know, some ideas for student activities, homework, all of this. And it even cites its sources, which has been a problem for AI in the past.
And so you might wonder, why is it Magic School AI? Why not ChatGPT? Why not Claude? Student privacy is a very big concern. And so what they've done is they've done it in a way that protects student privacy. Working with the different schools that I've done, anything that has any sort of student PII is, there's a very rigorous process for a very good reason. And so that's why Magic School AI has been doing a great job in being able to provide that. They also have a lot of tools for both the students and the educators. So we can go back for the teachers as well. It needs to be a community thing where both the students and the educators are elevated. A lot of times it's so focused on the students, and the teachers get anxiety and think, oh, I don't know how to grade this. Is it real or fake or not? And so being able to provide resources and tools for both sides is what makes this successful. And then we'll transition to NVIDIA Explore.
So this is NVIDIA Explore, and already you can see it has a bunch of different AI tools. So for vision, visual design, retrieval, speech, biology, it has many, but I'll open this example of a digital human. So this is the little demo it has, but it has a blueprint card. It also shows about, it tells you about the architecture and like how it's built. So it's really plug and play and easy to integrate into your project. So let me show you an example. Hello? Hello, could you please tell me about NVIDIA's tools for generation?
Okay, so it looks like it is glitching out a little bit. Hopefully, maybe you guys can try it at home. But what NVIDIA Explore does is it has all sorts of LLMs, different sorts of machine learning models that you can try out, whether this is a digital human or whether this is a text to 3D model or a text to image. So let's say I have a business and I'm looking at different AI models to start out with. You know, rather than paying whatever subscription, or you can test that out and the effectiveness before actually going all the way in onto your small business needs or business needs as well. So there are a lot of interfaces, a lot of tools that you can use, and I would highly suggest you guys play around with it. Cool. With that said, this is the conclusion of our talk. Thank you so much for attending. Give it a round of applause for our high schoolers.